I just keep receiving messages calling me a butthole among other things from family members, which I promptly block. But occasionally I feel quite guilty. What my mother did was horrible, yes, but no one deserves to die for such things. So, Reddit, am I the butthole for refusing to pay my mother's hospital bill even though it may lead to her death? OP, what your mother did to you is utterly disgusting, and in my opinion, it's completely unforgivable. As in, there is literally nothing she could ever say or do that would ever be worthy of forgiveness from you. What kind of disgusting person tells their own child that they wish that they were never born? OP, if they pulled that son on me and tried to call me up, I'd just be like, new family, who dis? I'm giving you a solid 0 out of 5 buttholes, OP. Your mother, on the other hand, gets the rare 5 out of 5 buttholes. Honestly, I have no sympathy for people who abuse kids. That was r/am I the butthole, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/am I the butthole, where OP stands up to her toxic teacher. Am I the butthole for kicking my future brother-in-law out of my wedding for what he did to my kids? My sister met her fiancé, Tim, 2 years ago. Tim does not like kids, and he's made it clear how much he's uncomfortable being around them. Every time I brought my kids to my parents' house, Tim would start acting out. He would try to indirectly ban the kids from visiting their grandparents' house. My dad was firm with him, but Tim never stopped trying to exclude my kids from family events. My wife and I wanted to have our wedding at our house, a small celebration. Tim asked if there was going to be kids at my wedding. My kids were the only ones at the wedding since we didn't have many guests. He tried to talk us out of involving my kids in the wedding and making it an adults-only event, but I told him to keep his thoughts to himself. My kids were excited to be a part of the wedding. Tim and my sister arrived late to the wedding. The kids were with me and my wife the entire time. Tim looked visibly upset until he suddenly offered to take the kids to the bathroom so they could wash up before eating. A few minutes later he came back and I asked where the kids were. He said he took them to their bedroom because they wanted to play with their toys, and I thought this was out of character for them. I wondered why they suddenly didn't want to eat since they said that they were hungry. I wanted to go check on them, but I got busy with my aunt's ankle injury. My younger sister came and told me that the kids' bedroom door was locked and the kids were inside. My wife and I were in shock and we looked for the key. I asked my sister if she was the one who locked them in, but Tim said that he did it. He said that he was worried they'd wander around unsupervised and he wanted to make sure they were safe since everyone was busy. I took the key and let my kids out. My daughter told me that Tim said that I didn't want them to go outside and that I'd punish them if they did. They're my kids. Of course I want them to be in my wedding. My wife was speechless. I flipped out on Tim. I called him cruel, selfish, and a liar for doing this to my kids, trying to exclude them. I told him to just get out. My parents argued, saying that what I did was unnecessary since Tim was trying to help. I argued that they were unreasonable to think that I was being bitter, and I explained why I kicked him out. However, they still blame me for my extreme reaction since Tim had good intentions. My wife was quiet the entire time, probably wondering what the hell kind of family she just married into. I don't blame her. My parents insist that I talk to my sister and Tim and everyone apologizes since it seemed to be a major misunderstanding. I refused, but they kept repeating the same thing. My parents said this must be a misunderstanding since Tim doesn't know how to deal with kids. However, they went quiet after they heard what my daughter said. My sister claimed that that's just Tim's way of getting kids to behave. A little while later, my wife received an email from Tim apologizing since he couldn't reach out to me because I blocked him. My parents are pressuring my wife, asking us to be a little more graceful since Tim has apologized. However, my sister still hasn't apologized. That's why my parents want us to talk to her. So I'm deciding to go no contact for the time being. Okay, so first things first. Locking kids in a room where they can't unlock the door is a major fire hazard. Because obviously, if the building catches on fire, the kids can't escape and other people can't get to the kids to rescue them. So just on that level alone, Tim is automatically a butthole because he endangered your kids' lives. And also, let's be honest here, Tim tried to sabotage your wedding by lying to you and your kids. You absolutely should have kicked him out because what he did way overstepped his boundaries. This dude came to your house during your wedding and locked your kids in a room? The actual audacity of this guy is insane. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. This guy gets 4 out of 5 buttholes. I will say though, OP, it sounds like you're blaming your sister for Tim's behavior, and that's not exactly fair to your sister. Unfortunately, we're missing some information here because we don't know how your sister behaved during this event and after, so it's kinda hard to judge for sure. But at the very least, OP, I feel like going no contact with your sister is a bit much. Am I the butthole for telling my teacher to stop making comments about my wheelchair? I'm an 18-year-old girl, and I've had a pretty messed up pair of legs since birth. I can walk, but I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user. I'm currently due an upgrade for my chair. I've had it close to 7 years, and it's a bit messed up. It's gotten pretty uncomfortable and it makes noise, but like I said, I've had it 7 years and I've grown rather attached to it. My family is saving up to pay for a new one at the moment. I have one teacher, my English teacher, who constantly makes comments about how banged up looking it is. And she gets pretty pissed anytime I dare move and it makes noise. She says it's distracting. The comments about the appearance of my chair annoy me a lot because it's hardly going to look brand new after 7 years of constant use. She made a comment this morning along the lines of, "You know, you should really get a new one. That one looks like it's about to collapse under you." I got really mad about this and I said, "You know what? If you think I should get a new chair so bad, then you can pay the nearly $4,000 it's gonna cost. Or you can stop making nasty comments about something that literally doesn't affect you." After that, she didn't really look at me until the end of class, but the boy who sits beside me says that it was slightly butthole-ish behavior because she probably didn't realize how difficult the process was. Am I the butthole? Somehow, your teacher managed to be both classist and ableist in just a single sentence. And worst of all, she's insulting her own student, a person whom she has a professional and ethical obligation to protect. In my opinion, insulting your wheelchair is just as bad as insulting your legs. And she's judging you that your wheelchair isn't good enough? Like, that's the equivalent of a teacher making fun of students for having bad clothes. And then, on top of everything else, she's saying this in front of your peers, embarrassing you in front of your friends and classmates. I know that some people in the comments are going to say that I'm overreacting here, but in my opinion, if you discriminate against your own students and you can't even show them basic respect, then you have no right to be a teacher. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. She absolutely deserved that call out. Your teacher deserves 4 out of 5 buttholes. OP, I encourage you, you can and should go to the principal about this. Am I the butthole for triggering a girl's eating disorder by ordering a salad? I work part-time in an IT company that's very close-knit. My boss Steven and his wife were always very sweet. During my first month, it was my boss's birthday week, so he and his wife, Melissa, were kind enough to include me in this fancy dinner they were taking everyone to. A week prior to the dinner, Melissa added everyone to a group chat and asked whether we had any suggestions on where to eat. I said that I'm fine with anything, as long as there are vegetarian options available or at least chicken. My boss brought his 15-year-old daughter, Steph, to the dinner, and she's a sweet little girl. Now, Steph was really interested in me, and she kept on asking me questions about how I look the way that I look. Now, I'm pretty short, 5 feet tall, but I can be somewhat deemed as fit by today's generation. I was transparent with her, and I told her that I don't restrict myself to certain foods, but rather I eat everything in moderation. Plus, I have a plant-based diet and home-cooked meal, so that helps, and I also lift weights. Melissa partially overheard our conversation. She pulled me aside and told me that Steph was recovering from an eating disorder, so she encouraged me to be honest with her and not order anything that screams diet. When I saw the menu, there were little to no vegetarian options available. They didn't have anything for me. I was very disappointed and I said, "Oh, there are no vegetarian options." Melissa chimed in and said that eating meat once in a while won't affect my weight. Now, when I say plant-based diet, it's not that I don't eat meat. Rather, I eat chicken maybe once a week as a side dish and certain types of fish occasionally. But other than that, I mostly eat vegetarian dishes. My food habits have nothing to do with my weight, but instead because of my religion and culture. It has nothing to do with my weight. When the waiter came, I was so glued to my menu when all the others had already ordered. Melissa said, "Oh, she'll have the duck too," and I interrupted and said that no, I'll have the garden salad. I hate salads, but there were no other vegetarian options. Melissa got quiet. After a few minutes, Melissa told me that I shouldn't have lied and let on our daughter if I was going to order a skinny salad and starve myself. She said that I'm just like those Instagram influencers who lie to impressionable young girls about their food habits and bodies. And I just proved that by ordering a salad and giving her daughter a "don't restrict yourself" speech, and I probably triggered her eating disorder. I tried to explain that I only ordered a salad because there were no other options on the menu for me. And she said that I should have just sucked it up and eaten the duck because it's not going to affect my weight. So then I corrected her that this was a religious thing, not a diet thing. She said that if I eat chicken, then obviously I would eat other animals too, and I was just putting up an act. It was horrible. She completely tore me down, and I left immediately. And in an edit, OP clarifies that she's Hindu and half Brahmin. OP, there's rampant hypocrisy here. They expect you to respect their daughter's eating requirements, but they won't respect yours. You specifically told them that you want vegetarian options, and they just ignored you. Also, I'm not 100% on this, but your boss's wife telling you what you can and can't eat sounds kind of illegal, especially since this was a work-sponsored event. And if your boss's wife also works at the company, then I would say this is solid workplace discrimination. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Melissa gets 2 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for telling my brother that he's a terrible boyfriend after he got mad at me for helping his girlfriend? This happened a couple of days ago with my brother and me. We're 17-year-old fraternal twins. His girlfriend lost her dog 2 weeks ago. So last Thursday I was getting off the bus coming home from work. I saw my brother's girlfriend around the corner a couple of blocks from my house, and she was literally crying in front of a light pole. I asked her what was up, and she said they found her dog, but he wasn't alive. So she was going around the neighborhood taking down all the lost dog flyers, and it made her emotional looking at pictures of them. She said that she didn't think she could handle more of it because she thought that she'd be taking down the flyers for a different reason. I asked her where my brother Cody was, and I said that he could come help her. She said that he was playing basketball with his friends, and he didn't want to come. So I told her to tell me the streets where she put them up, and I'll go take them down. I understood where she was coming from. I lost my cat years back, and it sucked having to take flyers down and being reminded that they're gone. So I took down the flyers. Then, on Friday, Cody was giving me flack for literally doing his girlfriend a favor and making him look bad for not going with her. I told him it wasn't a big deal, but he didn't shut up about it all weekend, and he kept being moody with me. Then he was trying to say that he was going to have to keep his girlfriend away from me since I'm obviously trying to make a move on her. Like, WTF? I have a girlfriend I've been with for 5 years, and I'm not a cheater. So that's when I snapped at him. First, he was the one who decided to be with his friends instead of her that night. Also, it's not my fault that he's being a terrible boyfriend, since he cares more about how I made him look other than the fact that she actually got real help. Cody got all mad and went to his room. Now my parents are saying that I was out of line, and I need to apologize to him for insulting him when he's already feeling insecure. But I haven't apologized because I don't think that I should, and they're acting like I was a total butthole for saying that to him. But was I though? OP, you said your brother is feeling insecure. Good. Should he feel secure about the fact that he abandoned his crying girlfriend to play basketball with his buddies? No, of course not. To put it simply, OP, your brother was a terrible boyfriend and a terrible human being, and he deserves to feel bad about that. And then he has the audacity to get upset at you for helping his girlfriend? What a selfish jerk. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Your brother gets 3.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for checking my blood sugar at my desk when my worker has a severe blood phobia? I'm a 24-year-old guy who enjoys his job. I have 2 coworkers, Megan, a 25-year-old woman, and our new coworker, James, who's 23. The 3 of us each have our own office space, but because we have to frequently collaborate on work throughout the day, we're often at each other's desks. I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I take insulin and check my blood sugar throughout the day as needed. I give insulin through a pump, so that's not an issue. Checking my blood sugar involves pricking my finger to draw a drop of blood. The blood gets sucked up into a test strip that's connected to a glucose meter, and the meter displays the reading. The whole process takes like 10 seconds. I was checking my blood sugar in my office right as James walked in. Immediately, his face went white. He looked like he was about to puke or faint or maybe both. I was like, dude, are you okay? He told me that he has a major blood and needle phobia and he gets therapy for it. I explained what I was doing and why it was necessary, and he said that it's freaky that I have to make myself bleed multiple times a day. He told me he never wants to accidentally walk in on me checking my blood sugar again because he could pass out. I said that if I'm checking my blood sugar and hear him coming over, I can call out a warning like, "Give me a sec." He said that won't work. Just knowing that I'm doing what I'm doing is enough to freak him out, and that he would be stressed that I might not hear him walking over. He told me that I should check my blood in the bathroom from now on. I told him that I don't think that I should have to do that because it's unsanitary. He said another option was if I only check my blood sugar at certain times, like 9 a.m., right before eating lunch, and 4 p.m. That way he'd know when to avoid me. I said, these things can't always be predicted. I have to check whenever I feel my blood sugar going too high or too low. He said that he understands that I have diabetes, but he also has special needs that have to be accommodated, and that he doesn't want to have to avoid me at work and only talk to Megan for fear that he might see me checking again. He said that he's going to talk to HR about this and tell them that I refuse to compromise with him. Tomorrow, I think that I'm going to talk to HR before James does, but first I need to know that I'm in the right here. So, am I the butthole for not being more accommodating of James' blood and needle phobia and checking my blood sugar as needed at my desk? Alright, OP, so the truth of this is that both of you deserve accommodation. You have to be able to check your blood sugar, and he has to be able to not be around needles and blood. So, the real adult solution is for both of you to go to HR, and they should accommodate you by putting you in different offices. However, outside of that, I think that James isn't being very reasonable here. Like, OP, suppose that instead of having to check your blood sugar, you were an actual physical lion, and you worked in your office, and if James ever stepped foot in your office, you would literally eat him alive. Well, in that case, I still feel like James should be able to work with you. There's phone, email, Zoom, Discord, text. There's tons of ways that he can communicate with you. It's really unreasonable for James to expect you to restrict what you do in your own office. Can't he just, I don't know, knock on your office door or your cubicle wall or whatever? This whole logic of, oh, I'm afraid that you won't hear me approach. What would I do then? Dude, just knock. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes, but I'm also giving James 0 out of 5 buttholes because he deserves accommodation too. However, I have to give James like 2 out of 5, I don't know, idiot buttholes because to be honest, he's being kind of dumb here. That was r/am I the butthole, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/am I the butthole, where OP gets a family of thieves arrested. Am I the butthole for getting a 15-year-old kid and his dad arrested on felony charges? Early February, my bike was stolen from a cafe in broad daylight. A friend told me they found my bike listed on Facebook Marketplace, and sure enough, there it was. They'd stripped off the stickers, saddlebags, lights, basically anything that was easy to remove and identifiable, but I could still tell that it was mine. I messaged them asking if they still have the bike, and they say yes. We agree to meet up at a truck stop with a friend who tipped me off about the listing to take a look at the bike. When I get there, I find a woman with my bike. I ask her about it, and she says that she has no idea about anything about the bike, claiming she's selling it for her son. After a few minutes of stringing her along and pretending to inspect the bike, I say, "Oh yeah, this is the bike that your son stole from that restaurant. I'll be taking it back now." She screams that we're robbing her and tries to create a scene, and then my friend calls the cops for real. The cops arrive, they question both parties, but she avoids responsibility by feigning ignorance. However, her son is arrested for grand larceny. 2 days later, the kid's father calls me. My number was listed publicly on Facebook. He tries to talk me into dropping the charges because this would ruin his life and kids make mistakes. I told him the situation is no longer in my control, which was a lie. And then he tried to convince me to put in a good word for his son in hopes for leniency. I shut him down immediately, and he proceeds to get angry and yell and threaten me, but he was oblivious to the fact that I was recording that conversation. I turn the recording over to the police, and then the dad is arrested for intimidating a witness. The next day, the mother calls me from a blocked number and tries to talk to me. But as soon as she identified herself, I told her to F off and not call me again, or I'll be reporting her to the cops as well, and she hung up. She then contacted my wife via Facebook, sending a massive wall of texts claiming that I'd ruined her son's life over nothing, and how her and her kids were going to be out on the street because they relied on her husband's income. My wife is now upset and thinks that I took the situation too far, as do most people that I've told about this, but I disagree. I don't think that my actions were unreasonable. This isn't some little kid making a mistake because they don't know the difference between right and wrong. This is a teenager who stole something because he's a little bastard, and a family that not only didn't make the kid do the right thing, but willfully participated in concealing and trying to profit off their child's criminal behavior. They are awful people, and I don't feel any remorse for giving awful people what they deserve. Then, beneath that, OP adds a lot of clarifying detail and an update. First off, his number is on Facebook because his Facebook account is associated with his business. Second, yeah, stealing a bike does qualify for grand larceny because it was a $2,500 bike. In OP's state, $500 is a cutoff between misdemeanor and felony. Down in the comments, I agree with the user No Garden Fairies. Nope, it's a family of thieves. Mom was participating, dad was participating. Screw them, not the butthole. Yeah, I almost have to wonder if the parents are actively encouraging it, because if a parent steals a bike, they're in big trouble. If a kid steals a bike, then they're only in a little bit of trouble. Also, stealing a bike is bad enough as it is, but actively calling up a witness and intimidating them is a major crime. I just looked it up, and witness intimidation is punishable by up to 20 years in prison and a fine of $250,000. Now, granted, the father probably won't get that much of a penalty because I imagine to get 20 years, you have to do some pretty major witness intimidation. But still, witness testimony is a cornerstone of the American judicial system, and it has to be protected. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving that whole family 3.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for not going to my mom's birthday party after learning that her husband got rid of my cat? I'm a 29-year-old guy, and back when I was 14 years old, my mom got remarried. At the time, my sister was 12 years old and my brother was 9 years old. From the beginning, none of us liked Mom's new husband, Ben, and we didn't consider him our stepdad. It was obvious that he didn't like us either. He literally divided our fridge between stuff that was ours and what was his. We had separate milk, cereal, eggs, soda, etc. Everything he paid for we were not allowed to touch. It was weird, but whatever. Our mom bought us the things we needed. Ben was super controlling too. He always told us that our friends weren't allowed in his house, even though that he's the one who moved in with us. And even if my mom said that it was okay. We weren't allowed to sit on couches, so we always sat on the living room floor, and he expected us to be silent in the house 24/7, and he never let us go outside. I was a stubborn little kid, so I butted heads with him the most, and my mom played mediator between us. Even now that we're older, we still dislike him, and we only tolerate Ben for our mom's sake. My brother in particular hates him, and sometimes they have screaming matches. Last month when we met up at their house, things got out of hand with their argument, and my brother revealed that he knows that Ben was the one who got rid of my cat when he went missing. This caught me off guard, but I got on Ben's case and told him to tell me the truth. And it was true after all. My brother saw Ben with my cat in his car driving off once. Ben confessed that he was tired of all the cat hairs and my cat roaming around everywhere, so he took my cat to a shelter an hour away. I almost effing lost it right there, and my mom tried to calm me down. It turns out, my mom had always known that Ben was the one who took my cat. She never told me, but according to her, she made sure that Ben knew how horrible that was. Then I just left and told them I am not speaking to them anymore, and my mom shouldn't expect me at her birthday, which would be in a few days. My heart was pounding, and I cried when I got to my car. I felt like I lost my cat all over again. I had spent months looking for that cat, and all the time he was in a shelter. Who knows if he was even adopted because he was an older cat. My brother apologized for never telling me about the cat and for bringing it up in that way. Everyone else is telling me to let go of it already because Ben made that mistake years ago. They said that Mom was extremely hurt that I didn't show up to her birthday, and it was very immature of me to be so angry over something that happened a long time ago. I spoke to her and she apologized for what happened back then, but she said that didn't make it right for me to shut them out on an important day. I'm caught in the middle, and I'm still feeling emotionally raw over this whole thing, and I'm not really sure if I was the butthole for not going. OP, to be honest, it's surprising to me that you're still talking to your parents at all. Your mother brought an emotionally abusive man into her household. Your stepdad wouldn't let you sit on the furniture, he wouldn't let you go outside, and he stole your cat? What an absolute monster! Your stepdad sounds awful, and if you ask me, your mom is just as responsible as your stepdad is for all of this. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your parents 4 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for not going to Easter because I'm tired of every family thing being about the kids? I'm 26 years old, have 2 kids, and 4 of my 5 sisters have kids also, with the exception of Serena, who's more of the travel the world with a knapsack kind of gal. I love my family, but every single family outing, get-together, dinner, lunch, everything has to be family-friendly and kid-centric. I can never get my sisters, other than Serena, when she's even in town, to go to a movie, have lunch, sit and chat without it all being about the kids. Even if the kids are having playtime with each other and the adults are sitting around drinking coffee, the conversations are always about the kids. And kids are called over to talk to us, etc. Pre-COVID, I asked my sister Julie to come with me to get our nails done and just have some us time. She changed her mind last minute and said that she was bringing her daughter as a bonding activity. We do nothing but bonding activities. And the same thing has happened time and again. Shopping? The kids need to come. Taking a hike? Let's bring everyone. I expressed my frustration and she acted like I was being super out of line. She acted shocked and went on about how she can't imagine doing things without her mini-me and that it was weird. It became this whole, "Are you okay? Are you sure? Are you depressed?" type of thing. Our Zoom family meetings are always about the kids with no adult time. So when we were talking about getting together for Easter, I thought, hey, maybe they'll want to catch up. I asked during a planning call, do you think we can maybe just have some time for the adults where the kids are playing so we can all catch up? My mom and sister acted like this was the most ridiculous thing that I could ask. Mom asked, "Are you okay?" And I can't imagine wanting to spend time with my family and exclude you girls from any part of it. That's not normal. I said that I really can't sit through another kid-centric get-together, and that if we aren't going to at least do something and sit and have cake and coffee together and catch up, just the family, then count me out. Well, I just sent my kids over to their place, and I ended up staying home and having a great time with just me and Serena. Serena says that she understands how I feel, and she stands beside me because they exclude her as well since she doesn't have any kids, and she's made it clear that she never will. Of course, she and I are being talked down to and told that we're buttholes to treat family like that. That we all should have been together as family, and that it's time to grow up and accept that it'll never just be the sisters again. I cried about that. Am I really wrong here? Is this normal and I just have to accept that I'm never seeing my other sisters one-on-one without their kids being the focus of everything? And then OP clarifies, I did not ask for a kid-free Easter at all. All I asked for was some time for the adults to drink coffee and catch up with each other while the kids were playing. Nah, OP, I think you're being completely reasonable here. Sure, it is important to be a parent, but it's also important to just have adult time to yourself. If you ask me, you're not the one being weird here. They're the ones being weird. I don't exactly begrudge them for obsessing over their kids, because if that's the choice they want to make, then that's their right. But it's completely unreasonable for them to expect you to make the same life decisions that they made. Am I the butthole for telling my teenage daughter to stay with her aunt because my older daughter didn't want her in the house? My wife and I have 2 daughters, Laura who's 20 and Lily who's 15. Laura is studying at school, but she came home for the weekend. Lily has just had her first breakup, and it's hit her hard. She's been crying in her room the past few days. Unfortunately, Laura has a bit of a wind-up personality and was tormenting her little sister about the breakup, which only upset Lily more. Laura was saying things like the boyfriend left her for a prettier girl and saying that she didn't blame him, etc. Really horrible things. We did tell Laura repeatedly to cut it out, but she didn't listen, to the point that Lily went to bed in tears. Laura has eye problems. She's been visually impaired since she was a baby. Her current glasses prescription is -28 and she can't wear contacts. We woke up this morning to screaming from Laura's room. Laura had woken up and put her glasses on, but the lenses had been popped out. Lily admitted to doing it and said that she threw the lenses out the window. We did try to search for them outside, but they couldn't be found. Laura was crying her eyes out and couldn't see anything at all. She does have a spare pair of glasses, but since she only came home for a couple of days, she didn't bring them with her. To be fair, Lily regretted what she did as soon as she saw how upset Laura was. But Laura didn't want Lily near her and begged us to keep her away. My wife's sister lives nearby, and I asked Lily to go spend the day there because Laura was blinded and looking after her had to be our main concern. I then got a call from my sister-in-law saying, "How dare you throw out Lily in favor of that spoiled bully?" But it's not about spoiling anyone. Laura was blinded and terrified and was too scared to be in the same house as Lily. It was right to ask Lily to leave until we could get Laura back to her place where she had her glasses. I do get that it was harsh to ask Lily to leave, but what else could we do when our other child was blind and crying in fear? Okay, OP, I'll do the good part first. So, in your defense, in that situation, yes, you should watch over Laura. She was basically blind and helpless, and she did need your support. Also, what Lily did to Laura kind of crossed a line and she deserved to be punished. However, OP, what you seem to not understand about this story is that Laura deserves punishment too. Lily was going through heartbreak and Laura was tormenting her for basically no reason. Did you stop it from happening? No. I mean, you tried to, but clearly you failed. Did you punish Laura? Also no. And to make matters worse, Laura is an adult and a visitor in your home. Lily, on the other hand, is a child who has nowhere else to go. So if Laura's tormenting Lily, it's not like Lily can just go drive to her college where she actually lives. Lily had no choice but to just stay in your home and endure the torment that you were allowing to happen. OP, you are a massive hypocrite in this situation who's clearly showing favoritism towards Laura over Lily. OP, I'm giving both you and Laura 3 out of 5 buttholes, and I'm giving Lily 1 out of 5 butthole. Am I the butthole for not punishing my child after he corrected the teacher? My 10-year-old son had to watch Snoopy cartoons in class, during which Woodstock eats a roast turkey. The teacher told the class that this is fictional and that birds don't eat other birds. My son corrected her and said something along the lines of, "My uncle trains falcons to hunt other birds at the airport to protect the airplanes." The teacher got upset and said that he was disrespectful and talking back and sent him to the principal's office. I got called in and they explained the situation. I said, "Well, was he right?" And the principal said, "It doesn't matter. This was rude and you need to teach your son to show some respect to authority." And I told the principal, "I'm not going to punish my son or make him apologize if he was right. Maybe your teacher should be better educated." The principal looked a bit shocked and just told me to leave. Fine by me, really, considering this school. Wait. Your kid's school literally called a parent into the office because your kid corrected an incorrect teacher? What a complete waste of your time, OP. What on earth is wrong with your kid's school that they prioritize obedience over education? OP, it sounds like your kid's teacher has a massive ego. I'm giving her 1.5 out of 5 buttholes. Your kid's principal is a complete idiot. I'm giving him 2 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving both you and your son 0 out of 5 buttholes. Also, to be honest, that's a really cool fact that should be shared with the class. So, the plane that Chelsea Sullenberger was flying that landed in the Hudson, that plane was struck by birds. So a bunch of birds hit the plane engine, both of the engines, and they went down, and so he had to land that plane in the Hudson. So, like, birds are like a really major threat to planes, so yeah, your son's right. That is a thing that airports do. They will, like, train predator animals that prey on birds to treat the airport as their hunting ground.